Welcome to the Binge List. I'm your host, Paul Chappell, and today I am reviewing Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 5, The Bells, something with bells. And I'm trying to keep my composure, but holy this episode was freaking awesome. I got to create a new term for it. I mean, it was crazy cuckoo bananas. From start to finish, well, not from start to finish. It started a little slow, but once that battle kicked in, woo! And let me give a little backstory before I go any further. As you probably know, if you follow this channel regularly, I usually host with my good friend Curtis Hood. I had to work last night. I work at night. And even though I tried to get the night off, I could not get the night off because apparently we had this thing called Mother's Day. So there's a lot of people who asked for that same night off. And I guess I didn't ask soon enough and it was denied at work. So me and Curtis didn't get to review this together. And I really wish we could have, because this is the type of episodes we like to commiserate about, because my God, there was just so much in it. So I go to work and I'm avoiding all spoilers. At lunch break, I don't go on the internet because I know somebody is going to say the sites I like to frequent are going to spoil stuff. So I didn't get on the internet. I get off work. I'm walking to my car. And like an idiot, for some reason, I just check Facebook. And of course, the first thing I see is Curtis, my aforementioned co-host. He just said one statement. He said, "One dragon!" exclamation point. And at that point, I closed the internet browser and kicked myself. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, this is what I thought it meant. There was some speculation going into this episode that there was going to be more than one dragon. I don't know how this got started. I guess people seeing the previews. I usually don't watch the previews because I don't want anything spoiled for myself. But I went and watched this previews, and there was some shots of Euron looking up in the sky. And somehow this rumor got started that there was going to be more than one dragon. How? I don't know. Did it make any sense to me? So when I saw Curtis's statement on Facebook, I thought, well, okay, he's just clarifying that there was only one dragon. But I'm driving home thinking, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would he just, one dragon exclamation point? And I really didn't want to give it too much thought. But obviously what he was saying was, and okay, let me just stop here. If you haven't seen this episode, I recommend strongly that you turn this off right now, go watch it, come back, and then see what I have to say. So if you're still with me at this point, there's going to be spoilers. I'm just going to go through everything that was awesome and some things that were not, but mostly awesome. Anyway, if you're still with me, if you've already seen it, okay. So obviously Curtis was the reason he said one dragon is because holy crap, Dany pretty much obliterated the opposing force, Cersei's army, with one dragon. In fact, they should have called this episode The Wrath of Drogon, because she comes directly down out of the sky, which was a good move because apparently the archers on the ship couldn't adjust their scorpions fast enough to counter that, and she was able to just wipe out the Iron Fleet with a couple of passes. So that was cool. She does the same thing with the defenses on the wall of King's Landing. I mean, that was all awesome, but I'm assuming that's what Curtis was talking about. And I'm starting to think now that they killed the other dragons, not only to get Danny in that state of craziness, but because they realized that 3 dragons was overkill. And 3 dragons would have kind of killed the suspense, because if Danny had went into this episode with even 2 dragons, you would be expecting it to go badly for Cersei. So I can now appreciate why they killed the other dragon in the last episode. And if you see my last recap and review of episode 4, I trashed that episode. I thought it was the worst piece of garbage I'd ever seen. It was so bad. I was really kind of depressed about it, because Game of Thrones has been part and parcel of my life for the last 8 years. So I just felt like they had dropped the ball. Like I said in my video, I thought they had dropped the ball. I thought it was over. There was no way this season was going to be redeemed by this episode. I just went in knowing that. And okay, I was wrong. Okay. Now, does that justify what they did with the Night King and the White Walkers? I will have to still say no. I still miss those images in my mind I had for what was going to happen. I felt like we needed to see the White Walkers climbing over the walls of King's Landing. Of King's Landing being covered in snow, like it is in the books. Because if you're a book reader, in the last book, Dance with Dragons, one of the last things that happens is it starts to snow in King's Landing. So I was just looking forward to seeing all that. And I still think they could have done something along the lines of everybody retreats to King's Landing, the White Walkers overtaking the city, Cersei is being comforted by Jaime, who's come back, and she decides to just burn the city down with wildfire. And this time, Jaime actually helps her. Instead of doing what he did with the Mad King, he actually helps Cersei burn the city down. I thought that would have been a much more fitting end. But I can see why they went this way too. I mean, for one thing, it was just totally awesome. My wife has yet to see this episode because she's still, I think she got stuck halfway through the last episode. So she has to see that before she gets to this. I think she's in there watching it now. But she's going to love this because Daenerys is like her favorite character. But I have to say, there was a couple things I didn't like. I thought it started kind of slow because the last episode led you to believe that they were going to go right into this battle. But they start out with Varys, and he's writing letters to somebody. I don't know who he would be writing letters to. But basically he's writing letters telling somebody that Jon Snow is a Targaryen. So you have that, and it doesn't take long for Dany to uncover this plot because Tyrion just basically goes and tells her. And it doesn't even seem like Varys thought he was going to even get away with it. So I was kind of puzzled by that. It felt like one of those scenes that they just wrote really quickly. Well, we got to get rid of Varys. He's useless at this point. Let's just get rid of him. He'll just get caught and die. And of course, Dany burns him. So we had that as kind of a start, and I was doing my face palm because I said, "Oh God, this episode is going to be totally terrible, isn't it?" And then I think right before Varys gets executed, Tyrion is admonishing Dany, and she's back in Dragonstone, of course, for whatever reason. And she's not eating, she's depressed. But Tyrion goes to her and pleads with her not to destroy King's Landing, which of course means she's going to destroy King's Landing. This is Game of Thrones after all. But I actually told Tyrion several times, shut up, Tyrion, because let's get right down to the essence of my problem with the people of King's Landing. And maybe, like a lot of people, you've forgotten about this. But if you remember, going back to first season, the people of King's Landing cheered when Ned Stark was getting his head chopped out. So I don't know why everybody's so concerned about the people of King's Landing. They're not good people. They're bloodthirsty savages. Okay, but there's children or whatever, and maybe you think I'm heartless, but look, this is a fictional city. No one really died. But my feeling was that I wanted King's Landing to burn. And lest we forget, the people of King's Landing also mocked Cersei during her Walk of Atonement. So we've got two instances where the people of King's Landing had a mob-like mentality. And if you remember, there was people exposing themselves in the street when Cersei was doing her Walk of Atonement. They were throwing feces on her, okay? So like I said, I don't see why Tyrion is so upset. I don't see why Arya, and this is another thing that annoyed me, I didn't see why Arya was so upset by the people around her dying. I got kind of confused by that. Because if you remember from that scene from the first season when her dad is getting his head chopped off, people are cheering and she's looking around, if you remember. She's looking around thinking, what's wrong with these people? And yet in this episode, she's like, oh, I got to save somebody. And it goes, her little effort to save that the mother and her daughter just goes on and on and on forever. So I think they're setting up something for Arya. Maybe Arya is gonna try to kill Daenerys, which would be very upsetting if that happens. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. There was some awesome. Okay, so those are my major criticism of the episode. Let's get back to what's awesome. Grey Worm was awesome. In fact, there was a moment in this episode where I thought Grey Worm was going to stab Jon Snow, and I would have been okay with that because as you probably know, I have a really big problem with Jon Snow. I think he's an idiot. But that whole moment where the bell starts ringing, and right before that, you see that smug look on Cersei's face as she realizes what's happening and that she's lost because Qyburn just told her she's lost. You see that smug look just drain slowly from her face, and that was a great moment. And then the bells start ringing and she lets off a sigh of relief. And then they cut to Dany. Then they cut back to Cersei. Then they cut to Dany. It was great editing in this episode. I just have to say. The tension they was building up by cutting back and forth between Dany and Cersei. I mean, if you were watching the timer on this episode, you knew that we still had I think something like 40 minutes left in the episode, because obviously Dany was going to do something. So I was just sitting there waiting. In fact, I think I was saying, do it, do it, do it. So that was a great moment. We had a great moment between Tyrion and Jaime. That's when I knew Jaime was definitely going to die. When Tyrion told him how much he meant to him as a brother. I said, yeah, Jamie's dead. So that was a great moment. That whole little pause between the Northmen and the Lannister men, when the Lannister men have given up, but there's that pause that's broken by Grey Worm just angrily throwing that spear at that guy, and it just all hell breaks loose. Loved it, just loved that. I mean, there were so many great moments like that. And just the fact that Danny is just burning everything. I don't even think she cared at that moment about her own people. I mean, there was a lot of people under John's command that were very close. I mean, they were running. John was telling everybody to run away at the very end. So that was just all awesome. Just seeing somebody just go into berserk mode like that is always an entertaining way to go. And they couldn't have done it any better, because it just, man, you talking about a mad queen. This is a mad queen. I mean, Cersei thought she was a badass. No. She was whimpering like a little baby. I actually felt sorry for Cersei, which was a remarkable thing that they... Another thing I have to point out that irritated me, though, that Euron, that fight between Euron and Jaime kind of annoyed me. I was glad that Jaime killed him, but that last line he gives, "Oh, I'm the man that killed Jaime Lannister." Can you just die already? I'm sorry, getting a little upset. This is the first episode of Game of Thrones. We've had red weddings and purple weddings, and there's a lot of crazy things over these years. And this is the first episode I had to stop midway and take I take blood pressure pills. Don't take them very often. Well, actually, I take them every day, but I don't. I guess it's better to say I don't need them that often unless I'm feeling stressed. I was feeling so much stress that I had to stop and actually take one. So this episode just got me on every level. The whole Clegane Bowl, the fact that the Hound kept stabbing his brother and he wouldn't die because he didn't realize his brother was one of the undead at this point. Qyburn kind of getting tossed aside by the mountain and just killed instantly. Wow. Just the whole thing with Jaime and Cersei and dying together, they kind of really, if you think about it, their whole love affair doomed a lot of people. It started a lot of, the fact that Jaime pushed Bran out of that window just to cover up that affair with his sister was the source of a lot of misery. But I felt sorry for them. This episode made me feel for the bad guys. Even the Golden Company. Whoa, the Golden Company lasts exactly 5 seconds in this episode. Wow. I don't know much more to say about this episode. I'm sure I'm leaving something out. There was a lot of awesome moments. It was carnage on a epic scale. This episode will probably be studied in film schools. That's how great it was. So I have to say, it's not the ending I would have chose for Game of Thrones, but it's very interesting nonetheless. And I'm very, very, I kind of almost feel like it should have ended right here. But I'm curious to see what they're going to do in the last episode. And me and Curtis should be reviewing that. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, I'm sure, before we we get into the next episode. But that's all I got for today. And I'd like to thank my new subscribers. And if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Give me a like. Give me a comment. And I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.